Right here, that thing spins. That's all it's gonna build, right? Let's see how far that came up. If you get a trailer that's too low, if you drop them airbags, it'll save you that much when it drops down. Save you that much trying to raise one of these trailers by hand too. All right. First thing y'all gonna do when y'all go to get your permit, they're gonna want you to put a chop behind the wheel. All right? You're gonna say, yes, we did. All right, everybody with me? All right. Next thing, landing gear. Of all things our government feels like it needs to regulate, landing gears ain't one of them. They might be on the left side, they might be on the right side. They might go up to the left, they might go up to the right. They got two speeds, a high and a low. The high might be in or it might be out. There ain't nothing wrote on it. How you gonna know which one's which? What? That's exactly right. Come here, show. Before you drop a trailer, make sure where you drop it is going to hold it. Go ahead. Leave it about 2 inches off the ground. It don't have to be exactly flat, but if one side is 7 or 8 inches lower than the other, you need to put something under it so you can get out and the next guy can still get back under. Okay? Y'all see how fast that is? Push it in real hard. All the way. There you go. Right there. Let's see how fast that is. Pull it back out. Go about another mile or two. Leave it about 2 inches off the ground. Yep. Thanks, sir. If you get a trailer that's too low and you have to raise it by hand, you're going to get real intimate with the low side of that landing gear. It's about 4 rounds to 1, and you need all that if this thing's loaded. All right. Everybody with me so far? See what he done right there? Most important part of the whole shebang. Always take care of your handle before you go any further. All right. This thing's doing this going down the road. Almost guaranteed visit from the man with the blue light. All right. Always hang that thing up. If they don't have somewhere like that to hang it, as long as it's secured, it don't matter if it's a bungee cord or a shoestring. All right? As long as it's not flopping around, you're good. You don't want it to cut loose and go through the windshield of a minivan. You don't want to get 2 hours from the Canadian line and 6 hours from a Napa store and not be able to drop your trailer when you get there because you ain't got no handle. All right? Always take care of these things. All right? Even on the drop yard, make sure that you take care of your handle. A lot of times when they put these things on a loaded line, once they load them from the plant, they put them all together. They don't use a regular truck to move them with. They use a spotter or a switcher. It raises them with air or hydraulics. They don't roll landing gears. So if you got that thing sticking out here like this, and they put this thing on a tight yard, they might put them 8 or 10 inches apart. You put another one 8 inches off this one, when you come to pick your trailer up, your handle's gonna look like a dish rag. All right? So always secure your handle before you go any further, all right? What's next? Anybody read that paper? What? When you go to get your permit, the next thing they want you to do is pull the release arm on the 5th wheel, all right? I'm a creature of habit. I want all y'all to be a creature of habit. Do it the same way every time. You won't mess it up, all right? Usually things go sideways when you get in a hurry or get distracted. You're going to be somewhere you don't want to be in the first place, like Chicago. And that wind blowing about 100 miles an hour off that water, about -20. The only thing you're thinking about is getting in that nice warm cab. You get out, you roll your landing gears down, reach up underneath there to pull that pin, and your phone rings. And immediately you're pissed off because it's probably your dispatcher or maybe your old lady, either way. And the next thing you know, that's them lines hit the back of the cab because all you was thinking about was getting in that nice warm cab and you got distracted just like that. Anybody want to know how I know that story? All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do the lines. Does it matter which one you're going to do first? Yes. Yes? Yes. Which one? Emergency. You sure? Yes, sir.
It don't matter.
Doesn't matter. As long as you got the buttons pulled out, there's no air on the system. As long as the system's not charged, it don't matter which one you undo first, all right? I would work my way from closest to farthest, starting with the emergency, all right? But the truck don't care and I don't either. But if you're going more than 5 feet, you need to hang the lines up, all right? Either hook them together, or this one has a dummy hanger back here on the back. It works just like the glad hands. When you unhook them from the glad hands, you go up 90 degrees, okay? When you hook them back up, you line the holes up and go down 90 degrees. On the dummy hanger, instead of a hole, it's got a dimple. Line the hole in the grommet up with that dimple, go down 90 degrees, okay? Somebody want to try it? Oh, come on. Go ahead, girlie. Show them how to do it. Grab it, go straight up with it. Just like that. There you go. You see how high you had to go? Line that hole up with that grommet right there. With that grommet, with that thing right there. And go straight down. Just like that. Straight down. Straight down. Just like that. That didn't hurt a bit, did it? All right, grab a neck. There you go. You got it. Good job. All right. See this thing here? Raise that little cap up and pull real hard on that. Yep. Raise that up and pull real hard. Pull it by over there. Pull it hard. Got it? Keep going. There you go. Alright, there's a slot up in the top. See where that little tab is right there? Alright, that tab goes in that slot and that gravity holds it in there. Yes, sir.
This is the paper that we're looking over there? Yeah, I got a paper from the...
You need the one we're doing that one. It should be in a pile up against the light. How about that? Y'all fellas ain't gonna let her outdo you like that, are you? Good job. Alright, so got the landing gear, we got these, what's left? Fifth wheel. You got a 50-50 shot at it. Sometimes it'll just fall out. Sometimes you gotta rock the truck back and forth maybe a couple times to get the tension off of the kingpin, okay? So, alright, this is the old school style, which I like pretty good. It's got a safety latch. You push it to the right with your thumb, you pull straight out and up, and the rod is like a Z, and that's what keeps it from shooting back in, and it works real good. And that wasn't good enough for them. So then they come out with one that's just spring loaded. You pull it out, and it just dangles there until you pull out from under the tray. Usually till about time you put it in gear and have to get back out and pull it again. Then they come up with the new style, which is totally backwards. You raise it up, push it forward, and pull it all the way out till there's a notch that keeps it from pulling up. I like it really good. All right, somebody go here, grab this thing. Just push that lever to the right.
All right, so
pull it hard. When you push it to the right, you lift up on it. There you go. Now go. Nope. Nope. Put a right hook and pull right. Yep, just like that. Pull. Yep. Nope. Pull like you do. Now bring this down. Look. y'all ain't spending our time in the trucks. All these trucks, the Volvos are pretty much the same. They got 3 buttons in them. The first one looks like the one in your pickup truck. It's got an X on it. When you get in a low traction situation, mud, snow, whatever, flip that button, it locks this back rear end in. So that way you got 2 sets of axles pulling. Alright? Kind of like 4-wheel drive, not really, but it's a lot better than one. Alright? You would think these tracks with all these tires would go anywhere. But it's total opposite. You spit under the wheels and they're like a turtle on their back. So you need all the help you can get. Alright? The next one is going to have a picture of a truck with an arrow going forwards and backwards. Alright? Y'all see all these little holes right through here? See these 2 pins in the middle? You push that button, it pulls these 2 pins out on each side, pulls them in so you can slide your 5th wheel back and forth. Alright? Each one of these little holes is 250 pounds. If you're trying to scale out your load, so that's how you slide them in, right? The one we're looking for here today has got a picture of a truck with an arrow up and down. You just push that button, and if it don't stick, it lets the air out of these airbags. Lets it down so that it takes the jolt off them landing gears, right? We used to just let them always slide off the back. Reason being, I should have showed you there, you don't want any gap. You don't want to see any daylight between the top of the 5th wheel and the bottom of the apron of the trailer, right? If you see the kingpin there, the skinny part and the fat part on the bottom, you want to make sure that fat part is up underneath the lock. You see your jaws here, that fat part's what keeps it from bouncing off. If you've got a gap between the 5th wheel and the trailer, then you might be locked around the fat part, around the head, and not the shank, right? So you want to always make sure there's no gap there whatsoever. When you're doing your pre-trip, y'all watch the video, you're going to see, you're going to walk around, crawl up underneath this thing, you're going to tell him, the examiner, when you're doing your pre-trip, that yes, I'm locked around the shank of the kingpin and not the head of the kingpin, okay? That's what they're talking about, skinny part there, all right? Everybody with me on that? Alright, y'all see how wide that gap is there? As long as that kingpin is anywhere in that gap, it'll pull it to the middle. But if it misses it, and you ride over the top of it, we call that high hooking. Because then you either got to lower the truck or raise the trailer enough to get that kingpin back over the top of that 5th wheel. Alright? Also, if you miss that thing, there ain't nothing to stop you from running the flares on that truck through the sides of the trailer. Alright? So, I'll get to that in a second. Alright. Everybody gather around. We're going to say we did a pre-trip on the whole truck and trailer before we left this morning, right? There's some things you can't see when you got a trailer on your back. Before you get another one, now's the time to address it. Especially if you're on one of your own drop yards, right? The tops of your airbags, they start getting cracks in them. Dry rods, you're not going to make it long with heavy roads, right? Your airline fittings, any frayed electrical wires, worn rubber components, rear end grease sprayed up in here, your rear U-joint, if there's grease coming out of it, or a shiny cap, anything like that. Anything that you can't see while there's a trailer back there, now's the time to fix it. If you get your truck washed, or you see a spot anywhere on your trailer, on your 5th wheel, that's as shiny as a nickel, you got friction going on. You need to put grease on it, alright? It ain't got to be pretty. Run it by the shop, they may just squiggle it on. Around here we use a bulk container and a drywall spreader, like icing cake. It ain't got to be pretty just so it's on there, okay? If you're doing it yourself, you want more on the back side, not so much on the front side. If you're back under the trailer, it's like putting butter on toast. It'll slide to the front. If you goop it all up on the front here, it'll all end up gooped on the front of that trailer. And the first time you make a hard turn, it'll end up gooped in them curly lines. And the next time you change the trailer, it'll all end up inside the cab. How much grease does it take to cover the whole inside the cab? About that much on the elbow. It'll be on everything before you figure out where it's coming from. Right? So always check this. If you're out on the road and you don't have anything with you, if you see you got a spot that's got friction going on, hanging on the handy wall, they have these packs that look like oversized maybe salad dressing packs full of grease. Just throw a couple of them on there, back onto the trailer. You're good. You can get to where you're going. Okay? Everybody with me? Any questions so far? No? All right. So we're gonna say that we're all good here, right? We're gonna hook to this new piece of equipment. What's the first thing we're gonna do before we hook to it? First thing I'm gonna do is inspect. Somebody ever rent a car before? Somebody ever rent a car before? What did they make you do?
Return it the same way you got it.
Want your credit card first? Yeah, no. They want you to walk around that thing and make sure there's any scratches or dents or whatever. Same thing here. Before you hook to it, the first thing I'm gonna check this right here. Make sure that my paperwork matches my trailer. That sounds simple enough. If you've been out driving all day, you show up at night on the dump yard, you got 5 trailers in a row, there might not be but one number or letter different. Maybe you're hauling containers, maybe you work for a big company, whatever. You got one number or letter different. It's easy to look at one and back up to the one right next to it. This thing don't turn like a Honda, all right? Especially if you've been driving 10 hours or whatever. So always make sure that your paperwork matches your trailer. If it's got a seal or a seal number on it, especially make sure that matches your paperwork. You show up with the wrong seal on a trailer, you may have bought it. The truck it pays pretty good, but it's hard to pay for $1 million worth of cigarettes. All right? So pay attention on that before you go any further. I'm gonna start at the front. I'm gonna check these 2 top corners. All right? We talked about those switching trucks earlier. When they jack them up, it puts those trailers at an angle. If they back in too close over here, it'll poke a hole up in this corner. All right? This side over here, I dare you to go through any town in the South and pick out 10 telephone poles. One of them's going to be out of place. And it's not your fault. Maybe somebody had an accident and hit one. Maybe a limb fell on a line. 100-degree day pulled the sap out of a pole. Had an ice storm. For whatever reason, you're going to have there's going to be one pole that's not in line with the rest of them. They've widened the road. You don't notice it in town in your car because your car ain't 13.6 high. But you roll through there in the truck, you may not even hear it. Bam! Just like that one.
Oh, it's where the bed is at. What I'm thinking of it.
Yep, that's a big hole. You may not even hear it. But you go by there, you got to deliver this thing, and little Susie wants to know why her furniture's wet. Well, you didn't say a thing about putting a hole in the trailer. And the guy before you didn't say a thing about putting a hole in the trailer. So who put the hole in the trailer? You did. When you signed for it, when you go out the gate, if it falls in 1,000,000 pieces, they're all your pieces. Alright? So you gotta be careful on that stuff. CYA starts with you. If there's anything about it that you feel ain't gonna make it, don't pull it. We talked about it earlier. You walk around this thing, you're gonna take that hammer, you're gonna thump every tire. If it don't thump back, don't pull it. If it's got a wire showing, it ain't gonna make it to California, don't pull it. You got oil laying in the bottom of the wheel. You got a leaking hub seal, don't pull it. All right. Anything like that, make sure all your lights are in place as you walk around. I'll get to that in a minute, all right? So, we're gonna say that it's all good. Everybody with me so far? Any questions? All right. Do not couple before brake system, all right? Before charging the brakes. When y'all go to get your permit, they want you to put a chock behind the wheel because before 1975, these trailers did not have spring brakes on them. What happened was, what that means was, when you get an air leak, if the air leaked off the trailer, you didn't have any brakes. Also, instead of flat feet on the landing gears, a lot of them had twin metal wheels. So not only would you not have any brakes, when you went to back under it, the dang thing would roll off. You'd have to try to chase it down, all right? So that's why when y'all go to get your permit, you're gonna say, yes, we put a chock behind the wheel, okay? If y'all go to pull anything made in the last 30 years and it moves, do not pull it. All right, something's wrong with the brakes. With spring brakes, when you evacuate the air system, it holds the brakes on until you put air back on it, all right? So if it moves, they're out of adjustment or something's wrong. Do not pull it, okay? Everybody with me with that? All right, so we're already in front of this thing. Do we have to hook it up from the front?
No.
No, you should always try to hook it up from the front. Sometimes, no matter how hard you try, the world don't care. Especially 4th of July, Christmas, holidays, whatever. Everybody's trying to get home. They're parking 3 deep in their yard. Maybe somebody parked one in a mud hole. You get it 7 inches lower, you can't get under it from the front. For whatever reason, sometimes you have to get it from the side. If this happens, it's best if you get somebody to spot you, because there's nothing to go by on the side, all right? And if you miss that little gap there with that kingpin, there's nothing to stop you from running the flares of this truck through the sides of this trailer. And if it's already in a bind in a mud hole or something, and you bend the landing gear, then it ain't going up or down, and you are stuck, okay? So always try to get it from the front, if at all possible, okay? Everybody with me? All right. When you go to get your permit, they think we should charge this system before we hook up to it. What that means is they want you to back up to it. Before you go under it, they want you to drag those lines across that greasy fifth wheel and put air on the system. Okay? Everybody with me? We're not going to do that, but when you go to get your permit, you're going to say, yes, we did. Okay? Everybody good? All right. So, everybody on this side, we're going to back up underneath this thing. See if it builds some air back there. You always want to make sure your release arm is still out before you back under it. Sometimes that thing will shoot back in. If you don't check it, you'll bounce under it. You'll say, oh yeah, I'm good, hook everything up. You go out the gate, take a right, trailer goes straight. You're going to get real intimate with the low side of that landing gear. All right? If it doesn't pick that trailer up, you want to make sure that you roll the landing gears up until it does pick it up at least an inch, okay? That way you don't have to worry about that. All right. Everybody with me? All righty. So when we drop the trailer, we put the chock, we put the landing gears down, undid the lines, undid the pin, right? You go backwards, you can't mess it up. We already got the pin in. What's next?
Put on the lines.
Put on the lines. Does it matter which one you hook first? No, but it does matter which one you hook because they'll fit either one. You can move a trailer with just the emergency line on it. But if you get them switched, if you put the service on the emergency, you ain't going nowhere. Okay? So this one does have red and blue lines. it can be two straight black lines. If they're both straight, one or the other or both should have something on them, either a band around it or paint or something to let you know which one is the emergency. Okay? If you're facing the trailer, red is always on the right. Emergency should always be on the right facing the trailer. If the lines don't have anything on them, your tractor protection valve, if it's up and down, the one on top should be the emergency. If it's horizontal, the one closest to the outside should be the emergency. Okay? Everybody with me on that? All right, so somebody grab these things. Go away. Start with the bullets and then fight your way around it. Grab the other one. Go over there so you can fight against it. Put the two, hold it together, go straight up 90 degrees and then straight back down. Going up 90 degrees. Straight up, like this. Up, 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 up. Look, like that. Like that. There you go. One more up, one up, one up. Now go down. Just like that. Go straight down. Okay. There you go. I'll get the drill straight. Hang on a second before you hook that one up. Turn that around. Y'all see these grommets? That one there over the water. See how it's starting to get thin around the ends there? It uses the same grommets on the truck or the trailer. Go ahead. If that grommet gets tore or dry, cracked, whatever reason, or it's missing one, if you go to pick up this trailer and it ain't got no grommets in it, what you gonna do? The trailer you just dropped had good grommets in it, right? Now this one's gonna have good grommets in it. You should always carry you some grommets with you. Your shop manager ought to give you a handful. If not, they're hanging on the handy wall on the truck stop, 4 in a pack for about $2. Always carry some with you. You don't want to have the green light going through the scales and he hears that thing whistling off the chicken coop as you go through, and all of a sudden it goes to red and you hear that voice of doom come over the intercom. Pull it around the back, driver. Because it's never good if it's pulled around the back, driver.